Everybody just hang tight. We'll start in just one minute here.
Yep, Ravi's just dialing in, so we'll just give him a minute. And there is Ravi. Hey, Brian. Hey, Ravi, anyone else joining from our side?
Hello. It's me. Good morning, all.
Hey, Ravi.
So no one else from our side, right, Ravi?
Yeah.
All right, great. So, Alex, if I could just set the context for the folks. Yeah. All right.
Yes. Thanks everybody for taking time today. I'm going to turn it over to Amar, who will announce the topic of discussion. And over to you, Amar.
Thank you, Alex. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time on a Monday. So, to give you a bit of background, a little over a year ago, we were working with our partners at Gramener on an unrelated project when we started trying to look at from a data and a data visualization and a data storytelling standpoint. We wanted to go down the route in terms of how can we simplify the delivery of data insights while not compromising on the quality of the analytics that goes into the data. So that at one point became an engineering problem and a data design problem. So as we worked through it, we came upon this idea that back then we started calling, first we started calling it Dash Plus, and then we started calling it SlideSense. In its purest form, SlideSense is an automated analytics package, a specifically designed dashboard, but that's delivered through the PowerPoint vehicle. And the generation and the updation of a SlideSense dashboard is automatic, in the sense that once the data design has been finalized and the presentation has been finalized, we can update it either on the back end or customers can update it themselves. Future state, of course, will be a self-service portal where we democratize the availability of the data, we democratize the availability of templates, but that's into the future. So the proof of the pudding being in the eating, we sold this as a concept to Fiserv. And that's pretty remarkable in itself, because Fiserv being a fintech company, they required for a dashboard available to all of their partners. So it was the perfect test case for us as far as SlideSense was concerned. Now, we've been delivering SlideSense to Fiserv for a little over a year now, and the results continue to remain remarkable. So now we believe we have a strong solution. We believe it's scalable, and we believe it's ready for you guys to take to your clients and start having those conversations, because we believe it's ready for prime time. So like I pointed out, we went down this road with our strategic partner, Gramener. The CEO of Gramener, Anand, is on the call with us today. Anand is familiar to a lot of you, including Andy Lukowitz and Bennett Blau. So we've been talking about SlideSense for a while now, but today I'd like to hand over to Ravi and Anand. So you will get to see it in action, and also from a sales standpoint, we've got some ideas that we'd like to run past you in terms of how you can take this to market and how we believe it's a useful value proposition for your customers. So I'll shut up now and I'll hand over to Ravi and Anand.
Thanks, Amar. Morning, all. So first up, I'll sort of talk for about a few minutes in terms of what we did for Fiserv and what the use case was, and then hand it over to Anand to talk about the rest. So I hope you're all able to see the screen. So this is what we will follow. First 5-10 minutes, talk about what the Fiserv case study is and how we use SlideSense and what has been the ROI. Then Anand will talk about SlideSense, why and what it does for the clients. And then we'll spend a few moments in a few minutes spending time in terms of how and whom to pitch and how to pitch and what the typical use cases are. and then we'll probably open the floor for question and answer so that we can spend some quality time in terms of understanding what the questions are and what could possibly be the next steps, right? So with that, I'll dive straight into the use case in itself. So Fiserv, primarily they are selling these machines, and they have the web analytics that they get. They sort of look at getting the analytics from their web in terms of what has been the hit rate and all those typical web analytic data, and they send it to each of their partners. So actually they have about 135 partners, out of which on a typical month there is about 80 to 90 partners where there is some activity. So the use case was that currently we are sending one slide for the entire group, which is not customized. It is an overall slide which gives them an idea of what the activity has been. But with SlideSense, what we did was we took that one slider, and then we created a slide deck which has about 4 slides in that, and we've customized to each of those resellers. So what it means is that if reseller A is getting a deck, it will only give the activity of reseller A, whereas the same deck will be customized when it goes to reseller B, providing the activity that has happened for customer B. So this is one big change that we did. So what it means is that they used to send this on a monthly basis, which used to be at the end of every month they target to send, but it normally goes on the first week or almost on the 7th or 8th working day of the subsequent month, because they had to cull out the data, pull in the reports, and be able to send this data. So now what they've done after this whole process has been set and it has been automated, now we are sending this report twice a month, and every 15th and end of the month it automatically goes. So that's the main benefit that we've got. And apart from that, we also have customized insights that we get for each of those sites. With that, we also created an executive summary which will be circulated within the Fiserv team, where it is a full deck talking about the entire activity for each of those partners. So it gives information like how many partners had some visits, what has been the add to cart rate, and all those key metrics that they wanted to look at. And they were also able to look at it by the different products that are there. So this is once we designed this dashboard. Again, this is again a 4-slide deck where we have additional drill downs that we built into it. Once this dashboard is built, now the time it takes to update all the 85 reseller deck is hardly about half an hour or 1 hour. As soon as the data comes in, it gets refreshed and it gets automatically emailed to that. The additional feature that I was saying is that the key insights that you see on the right hand side. So for every deck that you send, it gives specific insights based on the numbers that are seen for that particular reseller. So here it is an executive summary deck, but so it will give you the insights for that particular site, and this insights keep changing month on month. So this is the next slide. So that was the overall slide that you had, and you have the interactive sections on top where you can see the entire universe of the partners, which is the aggregation of all the partners. And they also have different bifurcation, which they call it as a strategic, regional, CFI, and non-FI. So all these bifurcations are provided as a drill down, and we can look at the information by the entire universe or the strategic partners and things like that. Again, this automated insight is also something that is available per slide. And the good thing about it is that once you receive the slide, if you want to look at rewording or adding additional things, it can be it can be, if needed, it can be edited in the output slide itself. So it is coming in the native PowerPoint format. So any corrections or any addition or deletion of insights or any numbers that you want to change or emphasize can be done in the PowerPoint that you get as an output. So for the partner universe, again, this is the next level of details in terms of the different products and how it has to be, what are the views, what is the add to cart rate, and what is the completed application. Again, this design, we can have any number of designs as we go along. When Anand shows a few use cases, you'll be able to appreciate that this design is not limited to what we see here, but it can be flexible. You can add any number of designs that we want, and that can be automated. So that was what you saw was for the partner universe, and then you can see this kind of information for each of those subdivisions or strategic, regional, and the different kinds of vendors that they have. So this is again something that is automated. Like I said, the effort is something that was drastically reduced. We were able to send this deck, a customized deck, to each of those partners on a bi-monthly basis. Earlier, it used to be sent as a monthly report. Now, every fortnight, they're able to send it. And on top of it, they also have an additional insight column that is added. So based on each of those numbers and specific to each of those resellers, we are able to send in the key insights for each of them. Needless to say that we are able to have 100% accuracy because the entire process is an automated process where we were able to 100% accurately update the data as well as email it to the different resellers, so that once the data is uploaded from then on, the generation and distribution of the PowerPoint deck or the dashboard is a completely automated process. I'll just pause here. Any questions up until now? If not, I'll hand it over to Anand. Anand?
Sure. I'll share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Do let me know when my screen is visible, please.
It is visible.
It's visible.
Cool. I'll dive into the second section, what is SlideSense and why clients want it. As part of this, I'll actually show you first the output of SlideSense, then how we will create it. But first, I'll give you a quick overview of what SlideSense is and how we see clients use it. Firstly, why PowerPoint? Well, it has 1 billion users. Arguably, it is the largest medium to communicate data. We were talking to, as part of our discussions with RRD, with one of your clients who said, we have a team of people that create Tableau dashboards and a team of people whose job it is to copy paste from those Tableau dashboards back into PowerPoint and then annotate it. The PowerPoint is part of the workflow. And as Ravi mentioned, the need to integrate into that workflow, being able to edit, it's an essential need. It's also one of those non-sexy needs, which means that there's a lot less competition for this. And a lot of people feel that it's less cool to talk about PowerPoint, and therefore that leaves the space, competitively speaking, wide open. There aren't providers that we end up going against, and I'll talk more about the lack of competition as we go along. But to begin with, the market is enormous. SlideSense, we see solving 4 kinds of problems that an organization faces. First is, how do I go about automating reporting? And do I need to buy a tool? Is this a tool that my entire organization needs to buy? Do I need to buy licenses for every person that uses it? Well, everyone already has PowerPoint. The second is, can I edit it once I've created this structure? BI tools are currently filling that need pretty rapidly, but they can't edit it. There is a good reason why people use Excel. anyone can create Excel. That's one part of it. But the person receiving it can edit it as well. That's hard to do with many other platforms. The slides and spreadsheets can be edited before and after. The third, this is somewhat unique to SlideSense, not to PowerPoint, which is people usually want to comment out something saying, look, see this particular dip in sales that happened because of something. In fact, the vast majority of reporting time goes into these annotations where somebody points to something and says, this is what you need to look at, and this is why it happened. But the reality also is that the vast majority of this is based on a simple set of rules that can be automated. SlideSense automates those. Fourthly, not everyone has the skill to create visuals with great design. And one of the things that makes SlideSense engaging is that it can create beautiful and interactive slides. And I'll be showing you examples of what I mean by that, including beginning with the deck that we'd created for Pfizer. Let me dive in now into some actual output and then how one goes about creating it. Like I promised, I'll probably start with what we created for Pfizer. If I can locate it from amongst my decks. Yeah, let's start with this one. Okay, so this is a sample deck. What I'm showing you, by the way, this entire slide deck is completely automated, meaning this is the output of SlideSense. So I'm going to get into slideshow mode and broadly scroll through it. My aim is not to show you the actual output, but highlight the kinds of things that come out. This is a summary of what this deck has. This is static content. There's nothing exceptional about this particular piece. As Ravi pointed out, the content that's out here, some of it is anonymized, that is automatically generated. The charts are automatically generated. The numbers obviously are automatically generated. The lines and the insights here are coming out automatically. You can jump to specific sections if you want a regional insight or if you want a CFI or non-FI related insights. You'll notice that the structure and the content changes. So this is really almost one step towards a dashboard in that it shows insights of specific kinds. And let's go into more out here. And deep dives like this, again, are pretty powerful in that, okay, that's only for this one, is it? Okay. Yeah, deep dives like this are pretty powerful in that you can effectively take a dashboard and use it. But like I mentioned earlier, this is editable. So if somebody wants to highlight one of these cells and just say, look, I want to focus on this, make it red and add a little annotation here saying that, oh, you see this little piece that happened. That's a big change from last time. And that's not just annotating the contents, but being able to redesign the chart itself, because these are native charts. This is native text. It's not an export. If we found that there was an error in the number, it's not really 104, but it's 104.9. So it should have been rounded off to 105. Go ahead and make the change. The source systems don't have to reflect it. Let me show you an example from another client. This is a media company who said, we share reports in the format of our clients. So this is the template that they share, the media expenses report to their client, because their client uses this template. And this has details on where exactly they spent money. So one particular brand, Yamaha, spent their expense in this particular way, whereas their competitors were spending it in different ways. And this is the breakup by the kinds of channels they were advertising in, and so on. This again is a native set of charts, native text, and this is an example of an automated insight where one of the things that we want to point out is here's an organization that has spent least in this particular category and has an unusual characteristic. Let me go on to another example. As I go on to go through these, please just feel free to stop me at any point. We have plenty of time for questions. This was for a pharmaceutical company. They said, we have two markets And in each of these markets, we'd like to understand what exactly is our product performance. And I'd also like to understand which are our top selling products or top performing products. It may be from a growth perspective, from some other perspective, and from a market share perspective, as well as which are our bottom three performers. Or going back to the summary, let's go to the second market, drill down and see a similar performance. This too is highlightable. So if somebody wanted to flag off that this particular product is doing really well, they just go there, make an annotation, an edit, and draw people's attention to that, or change the design. And okay, I didn't do that quite well. So let's group the whole thing. It's just PowerPoint anyway. Oh, I can't group it. Okay. They just move it around a little bit and then be able to put in whatever comments they need to put in out here.
Hey, Anand, could you actually change it right now? That was by sales. Could you change it by growth or volume or the other columns also when you're editing? Is it active that way?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it can be added in. No, in the sense that it has to be done by whoever's sending the deck out. Whoever has SlideSense will be able to do that. Whoever's seeing the output of SlideSense, it's somewhat more limited in that it allows only what's been created. So it's not a BI tool embedded in PowerPoint. It's a BI tool that generates PowerPoint. So did that answer the question?
I believe so. And the other part, I guess, of that is if you're presenting, does everyone who's viewing it have to have like a Tableau reader?
No.
In order to be able?
No.
That's good.
They need PowerPoint. That's it. So yeah, distribution is another major factor. The fact that somebody doesn't have to buy a Tableau license or a reader license or even access control. If you have access to the file, you have access to it. Password protection works exactly the same way as any PowerPoint deck. And it's fairly straightforward to add another slide in between and edit it as you would normally. But since you talked about interactive capability, let me share with you some of the more advanced capabilities of what's possible with SlideSense. So this is an example of an output. This is pure PowerPoint, by the way, in the sense that it's generated by SlideSense, but the end user doesn't need to have SlideSense. It shows the breakup of downloads from an app store by country. And so the size represents the volume of downloads. The color represents the rate of growth. So Android 4 hadn't been growing as fast as iOS 4. So we can drill down and ask, why wasn't Android 4 growing? That shows that games as a category was pulling it down. It had a negative 2.7% growth, and similarly, education and tools weren't doing so well. Why weren't games doing well? Or how was iOS 5 faring? How was the US faring? We'd be able to do this first level drill down into any one of these arbitrarily and see the result. So it is possible as long as we create it upfront as having that capability. Here's another example of a drill down where we start with a tree map saying, well, most of the segments didn't really grow much. Education barely grew 3%. Games dipped a bit. So why did games dip? Drill down. That's mainly because the retired segment and the listener segment weren't doing too well. Why was the retired segment doing poorly? Despite Android 3, every other mobile device was shrinking. So that's why that happened. The listener market was, despite the minor growth of Windows, pulled down by most of the other markets. So these are examples of drill downs that can be built into SlideSense. So what I've done is shown you some examples of what can be done. Let me show you how one goes about doing it. So this is SlideSense. I had a window open somewhere. Yeah, here we go. So there is a web portal that they will have access to. And in that web portal, they will have the ability to pick the template they want to generate. The entire process could be automated. I'm showing you the manual workflow. And then the same sequence, you can schedule it so that it runs whenever required and is distributed however they want, either store it in Office 365, Google Drive, Dropbox, their own shared folder, or send an email to a set of users. It could be a distribution list, it could be a large number of users, however. So one of the decks that I shared with you was for a media company. So I picked that as a template. Now you can choose to upload your own data sets, or I'm just going to work with one of the sample data sets here. If I wanted to modify it, I just click on download data. That would download the data format, which is a simple Excel file, but it would be able to connect to pretty much any kind of data source, a relational database, a Spark or a Hadoop data lake, whatever. Just for your information, this happens to be how the data structure is for the data set for the report that we're going to produce. It has for a variety of different years and brands and genres and categories what is the TV rating points that this particular segment got. Now let's select this data set. Now the next screen allows you to customize the chart, and there are simple customizations. In this case, the only customization they wanted was, do I want it to automatically transition from slide to slide? Meaning, do I want an autoplay, like if it were being displayed on a command center, for example, or do I want to manually flush it? And then there's some advanced configurations, which is relevant for any technical team that wants to change the formulas. So for example, some of the formulas here are, or even the narratives. So if someone wants to say, the way I want to describe the insight is with slightly different text, with slightly different HTML, they can just go ahead and edit this. But once a template is set up, and the setup is something that a servicing team would do initially. Self-service capability is not fully there yet, but that is something that's part of the roadmap. So eventually this is something they'd be able to do with drag and drop. What they get as an output is, in this case, there's only one presentation that's generated, and that's exactly the presentation that I shared with you. They could copy the link and share it with someone, or download the presentation and see it for themselves. That's what SlideSense looks like when it's being created. Next, I'm going to go into who SlideSense is for, but I'll just quickly pause in case there are any questions or comments.
So one of the things that I'd like to highlight, sort of building on the question Steve asked, was that the beauty about SlideSense is it doesn't require any BI tool to be on your laptop or a part of your system. It is truly about democratizing data and making it look and being able to deliver insights that are beautiful. And it's an underserved market and an area that's truly low-hanging fruit. And what Anand described, actually, there's more than one way in which we can engage in terms of generating SlideSense output. The self-serve model, and also then there's the Fiserv model. And we can talk about that. Anand will explain that in some detail as we go along. Back to you, Anand.
Thanks a lot. So who is it for? What we find is a few simple questions help us identify whether there is a market and a set of segments where we see SlideSense having the most potential. We'll start with who I would pitch this to. First, I'd ask, does a team produce at least 200 slides a month? Below that, it becomes small enough that the transaction cost of creating an engagement is low. There's value even lower than that, but to begin with, I'd start with at least 200 slides a month. There are three other criteria. If any of these are true, then SlideSense has a good audience. Do they share data with external audiences? That external audience probably doesn't have whatever BI tool they're using, and they'll have their own workflow. So anyway, it's going to be a copy paste from whatever you share into that. They'll really appreciate a presentation as opposed to a PDF or a Tableau report or Power BI report. Second, do they create presentations repeatedly? Meaning is the same template or slide regenerated multiple times, just with different data, weekly reports, monthly reports. These are classic cases. If that's so, SlideSense has a use case. Third, do they manually add insights to interpret data? For example, tell me why sales grew or which product converted the most. The kinds of narratives people usually want on a presentation to help them interpret the data. If any of these are true, then there's a good reason to try SlideSense. And if they use 200 slides a month, they'll have reasonably good ROI. What industries do we see meeting these criteria? KPO firms are an obvious bet. Accounting firms invariably send reports to their clients, and these are personalized for every single client or region or product or teams. Management consulting firms end up doing this as well. For them, a lot of the value is in the insights and in the interactivity. Retail and e-commerce, Fiserv in this particular case, fit in that category with Clover, where they're sharing performance reports with either vendors or channel partners. Financial services is a large use case where they can share personalized insights, certainly with their customers, but also with their agents, internal sales force, potentially investors. And we also see a need in utilities, manufacturing, and supply chain, where we've seen a number of use cases come up with SlideSense. Some of the clients that already use it, and this is just a growing list given that the product is pretty young. P&G has used SlideSense, entities use SlideSense, EY, Fiserv, of course, we spoke of, DHFL, and we have some of the demos that I just showed you are clients whom we haven't added to this slide, Group M and Dr. Reddy Labs. I'll talk about how exactly we engaged with them and how exactly they converted and how quick the sales cycle was as well shortly. But to give you a quick sense of why we see the traction on this, it boils down to the ROI. You've already seen the ROI for Clover, where it was the order of a few hundred X, meaning for the amount that they invested, they recovered their money in 2 weeks. This was for technology, this was for NTT, where for them, the objective was to make sure that their financial analysis, the monthly financial review, happens in an automated way with insights like this, where they get to see what are some of the most critical things that are happening at every level for a given portfolio, for a given region, for a given subunit, for a given country, any slice and dice of it by just clicking on the relevant slide and diving in there. But these insights can't be purely automated. It's got to be semi-manual because system doesn't know what was the unusual acquisition that happened in one particular division or what was the restructuring that happened between that took the cost center from one and moved it to the other. So this had to be partly manual. Now what the process was that they'd have the data by the 5th and they should have the presentation by the 7th. At best, they were able to do this for a few of the regions. By automating this, we managed to cover 30 countries across all 6 regions. And the total time taken to generate these upfront was 5 minutes. But even more importantly, the entire set of manual efforts were eliminated. The manual errors were eliminated. That was a huge and a critical thing. For them, it was a 5x increase in the number of drill downs and 100x increase in the amount of, in effectively the ROI, because that was the kind of impact that the cost reduction and the time reduction had. Whom do we pitch to? Well, there are 4 industries and use cases that we clearly see at the moment. Media agencies like WPP, Omnicom, Publicis, when we pitch to them, their first reaction is, look, we have ad spend reports. And these reports are like the bike presentation that I showed you a short while ago. That was an ad spend report. They said, our clients ask for this. It's not something that we can charge for. It's part of the relationship. So it's pure cost. And it's approximately 15 to 20% of our cost base. And it's part of the service. If this can be automated, then it's just pure bottom line. Second is a media performance report. We share with them how exactly they are doing compared to other brands in different media. And this is actually useful not just for them, but for us to suggest a media plan. And that is a strong revenue driver. The more insights they get, the more business they give us. This is something we find relevant to pitch to either, and these agencies are broken down into various sub-agencies. For any of these agencies, either the entire agency's COO or the country COO seems to be the best people to pitch to because they would be able to drive this across accounts. For KPOs, Accenture, Genpact, Concentrix, IBM, Wipro, where they have regular operations for reporting. These are just some examples that we've found a lot of traction on. They said, we do a lot of industry or competition analysis reports. These are pretty standardized, but the amount of time that it takes to generate these is high. If you automate these, then we save cost, but more importantly, speed to market. Meaning, if our clients get these reports quicker, we can charge a premium. And another is a market performance report, very closely related, but the market performance report needs to be mass customized, meaning every segment needs to understand the performance for in their particular market. So they say we have the data, but to personalize each one of these, that's a lot of effort and cost. Speed is not as important here, but cost is. A similar scenario for retail and e-commerce firms like Walmart, Costco, Kroger. For them, tell me how my partners are performing so that I can hold them to account. Again, if this could be sent to each of the partners, that's a lot of effort to mass personalize it, and costs would reduce. But there is also the impact that we can give personalized recommendations to them, which would mean that the yield through partners would increase. Similarly, for each of their brands, if they could see the performance report at a level where the brand owners can distribute it, not just to their internal team, but external merchandising teams, which would be hard to do through a BI platform, then that becomes a source of revenue insights as well. People that are typically driving this would be head of merchandising or the head of retail operations. Finance and accounting, that's both as an industry as well as a function. So in both cases, some of the kinds of reports that they've mentioned as being particularly amenable to SlideSense are monthly financial review. I showed one that NTT's finance team was using, or an investment performance report where fund managers or the treasury teams are looking at how exactly are their investments performing. For the monthly financial review, one of the things that's critical is that it's editable as part of the workflow. I can make an edit without having to go back and change it in the source system. And the people that are interested in this are typically the CFO or the head of reporting. To such people, when this is the use case and the benefit, how do we go about pitching and how long does it take? Well, we've seen sales cycles as short as 2 weeks. And the way we do this is through a one-day proof of concept. Say, let's have a 1-hour discussion where we'll share with you a bunch of questions up front and we'll talk about it. Give us one of your presentations, pick 3 slides, and a spreadsheet that has the relevant data. That gives us enough data to create a proof of concept. We'll turn it around for you in 24 hours. And we'll also set up a workshop where we'll teach you how you can do this. If it works, just run it and you're onboarded into SlideSense right away. And then we can scale up to the rest of your presentations. We've done this most recently with Group M, with Dr. Reddy's, shown you some examples. We have upcoming proofs of concepts, again, with another team in NTT, with Disney, with United Health. And they're all keen on sharing a quick example with us so that we can convert into a POC. They'll get to see it within 24 hours. This is available right away. And until the end of this quarter, we are making this an open program. So if any of your clients are interested, please let us know. As many as you like, we will be able to make the bandwidth to get this done. Please feel free to offer this as a free gift from the SlideSense team. And we'll do all the POCs that we can till the 31st of March. How could you go about doing this, or what do you need to do? Well, Ravi would be able to guide in terms of contact. From the Gramner team, Vijayam will be the point of contact, and his contact details are here. We'll also share this slide deck, so you'll have this as a reference, but Ravi, I guess, would be the primary point of contact. So with that, we covered what SlideSense is, who wants it, how to pitch it, etc. Would love to take questions and talk about next steps.
Thanks, Anand.
Yeah, what an interesting service offering for sure. Automating insights, interactive sessions, beautiful design. I mean, those are things I think many companies would benefit from for sure. So from the sales team. I guess, too, you mentioned you're selling to those people. Anybody on the call who has experience in selling this and can, give a few words related to that? Has anybody on the call sold this service yet?
I guess you're talking about from the RRD side, Amar, Ravi.
Yes.
Yeah, from the RRD side, yeah.
Because I'm seeing some, Bennett. Okay, thank you.
I've pitched this not in the self-service model, but in us taking care of it. And I guess my only question is, in the original, the origination of the product or my introduction, it needed a fairly defined data set that didn't change that often in order to be able to customize. Is that still the case? And is there a way to be able to overcome those objections?
Could you give me an example, Bennett?
I mean, this is really about in thinking about what's appropriate for SlideSense versus a full data visualization engagement using a technology like Tableau. Some of the success criteria that my understanding was, if you were doing board reporting, for example, so a finance group is putting together a board report every month to be distributed to a board of a company, in order for it to work seamlessly and not have much intervention each month, it needed a data set that fed the engine, so to speak, that didn't change very much, so that the metadata in between the data set and the automated slides stayed the same on a regular basis.
Got you. Whereas a team that was working on any tool would be, let's say, such as Tableau, they would be able to manually make whatever changes are required to handle it. So it becomes a case of a team being able to solve the problem. Got you. So I believe that as a product, SlideSense is roughly where Tableau is in terms of how rigid it is. In either case, if there's no human involved in the loop, it would have to be the same structure. And if there was a servicing team involved, then they'd have the benefit or the flexibility of being able to change it on either tool. Tableau does have an advantage in that there are more Tableau developers available than there are SlideSense developers. So it's likely that that capability would exist. So if it's something that where the data structure changes more often, it's better done by a services team with a tool that they are familiar with. And SlideSense would better succeed where, you're right, the data just doesn't change much very often. Same as any tool, but from a capability perspective.
Yeah, thank you. And question for Amar and Ravi. I know that Fiserv basically paid for an initial setup cost and then pay per slide. Is that going to be our pricing model going forward, or do we have other ideas? Have we standardized on how we're going to price this?
Initially, Bennett, I think the model will be the same, where there will be an initial setup fee, and as they go along, they pay just for the slides that they use. So that's the model that we have. But in case you come up with a different model that you think will work, we can obviously discuss internally and find out what works best.
We're open to ideas, Bennett. This is just what we came up with because it seemed to be the easiest way to go about it. There's also an analytics package built in, an advanced analytics package that you can build into a SlideSense engagement that we can talk. But fundamentally, we're very open to different ways of pricing that. Look, here's the thing, right? We've got an opportunity between now and the end of March. So if you've got a couple of clients or even prospects that you'd like to, give them something to kick the tires with, or experiment with, maybe we could just bring them forward and get that quick POC done. because the thing about SlideSense is it's best experience to see the value, because no matter how well we describe it or how good the deck or the sell sheet, when they see it in action is when that's what clicked for Fiserv, at least for us, and that's where the simplicity, the power comes from the simplicity of the vehicle. That's PowerPoint.
Yeah. And Amar, just to be clear, we sell SlideSense, so we buy from Gramener and we resell to the clients, or any SOW or any agreement would be between us and our client, and we buy from Gramener.
That's correct.
So and we also and just to add to that, I think we also have a setup which is within our firewalls. So the data doesn't need to leave our premises. So it will be just us getting the data, creating or generating the slides and sending it out. So at that point of time, Gramener will only work on the anonymized data to create the initial automation. And after that, it will be run by us, except when there are some issues that are there, if at all there is.
Right. So, I mean, I'm just dragging us along a little. Just to be clear, you sell this as an RRD SlideSense solution. It's powered by Gramener. I mean, I suppose you will get potential objections where people might ask you, who are you working with, and if there's further, if it's very secure information that we're using, you are going to get some objections. You're going to get some questions. So you just have to be prepared. We can work with Vijay and the team just on the talk track of potential objections that you might get, and Amara, obviously.
Yeah, and that's an important point you bring up, Andy, because and it's for those very objections that the Fiserv story is actually a useful one, because we learned a lot during the course of that implementation. And that's how we worked with Gramener to get an instance behind our firewall. So we're completely, as far as the contract with Fiserv is concerned, it's completely kosher.
Yeah, and just to be, let's just get right to the heart of it. So obviously, when you're dealing with the internal consulting groups within corporations, that's always a good spot. These are the strategy people. A lot of times they're cranking out a lot of the PowerPoint. So obviously, that would be a Pfizer. Nick, obviously, KPMG would be a potential solution if Gramener hasn't been there already with some of the other clients. BCG is one that Gramener has a relationship with, so that would not likely be a good one. I think at this point, right, Anand, since you're already there, given your past history. So there's really others that coming in the retail space. Alex, through the former CCS, we'd have to look at whether or not for Home Depot or some of these larger clients, that they would, we could make a pitch and a benefit. And I'm sure there are others that you would think of, but I would ask everybody to, we got an opportunity to avail ourselves of an offer for a short period of time, and, let's see what happens. So.
I'll also, I think I saw Paul Gillespie on the call. Paul, this could also be something that you and Frank Costello could take offline and see how you could add that, because I definitely see potential in the life sciences space as well. And definitely, this is, and maybe a free POC could be the thing that gets us a foot in the door. So I'll leave that with you, Paul, and of course Ravi and I are available to support you. But that's something you could look at.
Anand, the healthcare is big. Pat Carker's on the phone. Has been looking after that vertical. It's a huge vertical for the company. UHG is a client of RRD. Sounds like you're already there. Could you just describe, because we've got other large healthcare providers and payers and that we're doing business with. Could you just deep dive a little more into exactly what area of UHG you're in and what might resonate the best for healthcare and for Pat?
Got you. It's still in the early stages at the moment, Andy. We are working with Optum to discover some use cases. We have demoed and they've taken up the offer of a one-day POC, which we are literally turning around tomorrow. So it's a matter of discovery now to see where that goes. I'd love to share what use cases we find from this.
There might be a benefit, and Pat, maybe as you talk to Ken or Alex, and you all talk to Ken Gammon runs that vertical for us. If there's any benefit to us piggybacking on the existing UHG relationship, if they're more inclined to work on SlideSense through us, then if you know the drill. Sometimes they see the small company and it's not as easy to get it through. But that's one worth talking. So Pat, I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, great. Andy, thanks for bringing it up. Anand would look forward to digging into that. And certainly Optum is one entity under the UHG umbrella. So yeah, let's definitely peel back some layers and better understand that one.
Got you. My call is with them tomorrow. I will share an update no later than day after on what we find. And I will mention that this is an option.
Yeah, thank you.
And Pat, anything additional you need to know to help you have conversations on the healthcare side? I'm sorry, I didn't see you at the bottom of the list. So just feel free to reach out to me, and I'll get you the information you need. And Ravi's also around for help.
Great, thanks, Amar.
So Amar, that's a good segue into my question. When a rep does have a possible opportunity, do they go directly to you, or do they go through Vijay?
They could go to since this group, of course, we're tight, so you can reach out. But from a process standpoint, just go to Vijay. He'll get it lined up.
Okay.
And again, for some of the newer reps, I can't stress enough. You got to think of sort of the continuum of what we're trying to sell. So if you're trying to sell Catch as and as part of Catch, you've got presentation, support, PowerPoint services. Again, you've got your sales teams that are doing, cranking out a lot of PowerPoints. You've got your internal consulting team. So in a corporation, as you're trying to figure out who to go to, that's where you'd go. Those two areas are probably the best. Then once you're there, you talk about the continuum of, okay, how would you enhance your presentations? And SlideSense would be a piece of that. And then certainly the other obvious area is any of the secondary research. People ask us, my experience was always people say, wow, I've got a lot of presentations to make. Can you help me with the data and the information that goes into the presentation? Yes, we can. We can do some project-based research, and then we can also make it sing and dance with SlideSense. So that's kind of how in my mind, that's how you'd sort of engage and talk and kind of work your conversation. It's really important to think of, if you just say, hey, we got PowerPoint, you want any? That's probably not your best bet. So.
Anand, hi, this is Paul Gillespie. Just curious if Low Advertising is a media company you've approached.
I believe we have. I can confirm in just a minute. I'll check our CRM and confirm. I think we have. I'll get back to you in just a minute.
Hey, Paul, though we'll have to check on, we'll have to be a little specific in terms of which Low office, because Low is kind of decentralized, so it
I was thinking the one here in Boston, Mullen Low. I have a pretty high level operations contact there.
I'm not that one, right? Or did you?
We haven't been in touch with Low at all, so it's good. It's fine either way.
Okay, I'll check in with them.
What else? We've got just a couple more minutes. Any other questions at this point?
Well, the first thing someone's going to say, we call them or email them, is send me something, or let's look at something together. What's the central asset? What's the central asset to tell the story? The central visual to tell this visual story.
Sure. We have some. So what I'll do is I'll connect with Anand offline. We do have some core collateral in the form of presentation, sell sheet, and battle card. So I'll bring those up to date before the week is out and have that over to you. But I would just say, Paul, that let's just get as many people to take Anand up on the offer of the POC. And no presentation will work as well as them seeing that those insights in PowerPoint come to life. The thing is, most people, just to digress for a minute, and then I'll ask Ravi to wrap up. Most people do not see PowerPoint as being anything beyond something you copy and paste charts and tables into. The fact that there are powerful analytics insights generated through the vehicle, and where the commentary is editable and it's automatic, it's hugely powerful in terms of the democratization of data, and that's a trend we're going to be seeing over the next 18 to 24 months. Where data is going to not be, or data visualization or data storytelling is not going to be the sole domain of Tableau and Power BI. Let's be very clear about that. And Paul, the last time I spoke to Anurag about this was when he was in Chennai. I think you were there as well. And he said that BCG has something similar. That they sell to their clients at some ridiculous fee. So if BCG is doing it, there's other people that need it. So we have a bunch of things that we can do if we put our heads to it.
Yep.
Well, so anyway, thank you very much for your time, folks, and thank you, Alex, for setting it up. Thanks, Andy, for making the time. Anand, of course. Ravi, would you like to wrap?
Sure, Mark. Yeah, just like Amar and Anand were saying, I think the POC is hugely something that we can leverage. Maybe do a few POCs so that we will be able to get our clients to actually firsthand look at it and see how it works. For any questions, like Amar said, Vijay, me, or Amar, you can reach us. So we will channel our queries to Anand and get the response as soon as possible.
Right. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Hey, let's not let this. Let's make use of this opportunity we have for the POC offer. It won't last forever. I think Andy gave some great talk track or process in terms of how to engage with clients. So let's see where this thing takes us. It's just another really cool tool that we now have in our kit to go to clients and talk about interesting things. So. Everybody, hope you have a great week. Thanks everyone for the information and the call, and we'll talk again later in the week. Take care.
Thanks, and we will send this deck out to you after the call, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Amar.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.